It's just the hits keep on coming for LSU, and we will certainly talk about that. Brandon Taylor from the LSU Sports Radio Network, obviously a former Tiger and defensive back, will join us in 15 minutes. Brody Miller from The Athletic covers LSU. Will be with us at the bottom of the hour at 12:30. We'll hear from Will Wade, some sound from the head basketball coach in hour number 2, and we'll start to look ahead to the Florida Gators. But before we start to look at the Florida Gators, it's another news drop from LSU, and it's another one that's not positive. Ed Ogeron was on the SEC teleconference a little bit earlier today, and he delivered news about his second All-American cornerback. This time it was Eli Ricks.
I received news this week that Eli Ricks will be out, unavailable the rest of the season. So that means we have to move maybe Cordell Flott to cornerback, Sage Ryan to nickel. We have a different combination that we're going to work this week. But that's the news about players unavailable, new stuff this week.
Seems like it's a weekly occurrence, and it's always disappointing. Look, this is another star on LSU's team that will not be on the roster the rest of the year.
Man, this is feeling a lot like 2020. It's just like it's like a repeat. And I know we blamed everything else on COVID and everything else like that, but it just looks the same, man. And I know COVID's still going on, and there's a lot of still hangover from that, but man, guys are dropping like flies. You're getting bit by the injury bug. Guys aren't finishing the season. You're seeing that time and time again. And, man, this is not good news for this team. Probably the best defensive player on the team thus far. Just having a great year. Guys aren't throwing his way. He's not getting a lot of attention. And it just sucks, man. You didn't think this season would come to this point. Just being 3-3, losing the guys that you're losing. Just not the roster that we thought we'd have at this point in the season. Just a tough pill to swallow as a Tiger fan.
It is, and we'll get into what the roster looks like versus what it was supposed to look like. And anytime things are not going well and teams losing, which they have lost 3 games already this year and have lost 2 in a row for just the second time in the Ogeron era, things are going to be said on the outside. But the question was asked to Ed Ogeron, why is he out for the year?
It was a nagging injury, jog here and there, and he kept on playing with it. It just kept on reoccurring. So he and his family decided that they were going to operate on.
He has missed a series here and there for injuries and being banged up. I mean, that's something that has happened, and he's always come back into the game. But obviously, it's a decision that he and his family made to get this cleaned up and stop playing this season. Everyone's feeling some type of way this late into the season. That's just the way it goes. But sometimes you feel like you just got to stop and get it cleaned up, and that's what the Ricks family's decided.
Yeah, when you come to LSU, we talk about it time and time again. Come here to win the West. Come here to play in Atlanta. You come here to go to the college football playoff, and when those goals are just totally out of the picture, you got to ask yourself, is the juice worth the squeeze at this point? And I think for them, just playing this entire season injured and really risking something more dangerous, I don't think the juice was worth that much for them. And you got to wish the best for Eli and his family. It's their decision to make. It's his body. It's his career. So I know a lot of people are going to pound down like the whole Sting thing all over again. But, man, it's hard to go out there and play. You worry about the morale of this team. You worry about the leadership. All of that stuff is starting to slowly fester and build up. So hopefully they can turn this thing around, but it's just not looking good with news like this.
So as you look at the defensive backfield and we look at the team they're going to put out there, obviously Cordell Flott and Dwight McLaughlin will be on the outside. He mentioned Sage Ryan moving into the nickel spot. Jay Ward can come down and play the nickel, but Major Burns is out, so you got Todd Harris back there. Are you going to send Jordan Tolles back there? There are enough bodies, but you're getting to the point where it's about it. I mean, you've just about taxed the entire secondary when you lose your top 2 corners and one of your starting safeties goes out.
Yeah, it looks like a lot like that Florida game, how we finished the season last year. Just probably, 50, 60 guys on scholarship that's able to play, and that's where that season's headed at, man. This injury bug is really, really, took a huge chunk out of this team. Just not the roster we looked at while we felt so good about this team going into the season. Just you look at the depth, you look at the talent everywhere. A lot of those guys aren't around anymore, from the transfer portal to ineligibility to injury. You name it. It's just not the same team you think you see trotting out there week in and week out. So just huge blow. You hate to see it, but next man forward. And I'm excited to see what Sage Ryan can bring to this team. I know a heavily touted recruit, Louisiana kid, battled with a ton of injuries heading into the season, but let's see what he has. Maybe, he can pop off like Kayshawn did, or, you always see stories every year of freshmen breaking out. So maybe he's that kid.
Look, results, injuries, the whole thing, we realize there's a lot of negative around the program right now, and Ed Orgeron addressed how to handle that.
Yeah, sure. Being at Ole Miss, I used to read that stuff, and my family had to read it and stuff like that. After I got fired from Ole Miss, I said, I'm not going to read that stuff again. Because I learned that from Coach Carroll. Pete Carroll taught me, he said, Eddie, don't read it when you're doing well because they'll make you too good. Don't read it when you're doing bad because they'll make you too bad. So it's just you try to stay level, stay in between, and take one day at a time.
It's an admirable answer, and it's really all you can do. I think everyone's aware of the situation around the program right now. It's not in a great place. That's an obvious thing. You can look at the results on the field. You can look at the injury list. You can look at whatever you want to look at. It's all not very good right now, but the only thing you can do is, like you said, get up and go to work, and that's what you got to count on the coaching staff and the players that want to be there to invest emotionally and prepare. And it's a group of guys that did it last year. Would you bet on it again this year? It'd be tough to do that. But they did it last year. We'll see what this group's got left in the tank.
Yeah. It was a lot of young guys hungry to prove themselves, and they got thrusted out in big SEC time football games. And those guys came and they answered the bell. And that was Kayshawn Boutte. That was Max Johnson. There's a bunch of guys on this team that stepped up last year. And there's going to be a ton of the young guys this year that are going to be put in that very same position to go out there time and time and to step up and to really try to bring the standard of LSU football back to some level of respect around the SEC because, man, you keep losing these games like this. You keep getting embarrassed the way you do. That letter isn't going to mean as much as it used to a couple years ago. So you got to continue to go out there and battle. That's what Coach O said, and hopefully they can go out there and change what it's looked like these past few weeks.
A lot of these lists are circling around. Shea Dixon put out a list. Preston Guy's the one that I'll use here to rattle it off. But between 2018 and 2020, LSU signed 8 five-star players. They signed Jamar Chase, Terrace Marshall, Derek Stingley, John Emery, Marcel Brooks, Eric Gilbert, Kayshawn Boutte, and Elias Ricks. None of those guys will be on the field on Saturday, and none of them played 3 full seasons at LSU. Signing day is a fun day, and you look at the thing, this is going to be great. And obviously some of those guys made a huge impact on a national championship team, so it's not as if that was an entirely wasted exercise in looking at that and look at those players you brought in. But the fact of the matter is that none of them are there, and you lose that many of your stars, and not to mention the fact that just off this defense alone, you don't have Joseph Evans, you don't have Ali Gay, you don't have Andre Anthony, you've lost Major Burns, Stingley, and Ricks. I mean, that's just off the defense. It's just not doable. You can't survive that.
Yeah, and I think as much as people are not going to like this, it's just terrible timing for Coach O and the crew. You run into a global-wide pandemic. you run into that, and then you run into these NIL rules and the transfer portal rules and all these things that have just totally changed the landscape of college football. Just that's what happens, man. You get all these 5-star kids. They have the option to sit out now, and that's not looked down and frowned upon, so kids are going to take that opportunity to do that. Just an unlucky time and just bad timing. You see situations like we find ourselves in this season. So, man, you wish you can get a lot more out of those kids, but just the way things have gone, it hadn't worked out that way.
The other point of note from the teleconference, Ed Orgeron addressed the future of Kevin Falk.
I saw him last week. He looks like he's getting in a little bit better spirits, obviously, but he has a lot of stuff to deal with. I told him to take the time that he needs for him and his family, and I haven't talked to him with a timeline or anything, and so I know there's some stuff that he's taking care of, obviously being the great father that he is, so we're going to give him time to take care of that stuff.
And certainly understandable, but I think something that worth the question if you ask him what your running backs coach has obviously stepped away. Is there any kind of timeline for his return? Sounds like at this point there is not. Kevin Falk will take as much time as he needs with his family to handle things the way they need to be handled. Yeah,
just terrible news. Since we've heard it, just you can't imagine what he's going through. You just have to wish the best for his family, pray for his family, and that's how this season's going, man. A lot of stuff is going wrong that you just never thought would be imaginable, and that's just what we have to deal with. But Kevin, wish the best for his family. I hope he takes his time, and definitely football definitely does not come front in that type of situation.